Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to The Art as Well. This is your weekly source of inspiration, enlightenment, and connection with artists throughout Ireland and indeed beyond. This is episode 48, and I'm delighted to have Cathy Carman as our special guest. Cathy was born in Portlaoise and studied sculpture in NCAD. She is widely acclaimed for her figurative work in wood, stone, bronze, and ceramic. Cathy exhibits regularly both in group and solo shows, both in Ireland and abroad, and her most recent work has used digital imaging, natural materials, found objects, and sound to contextualize and counterpoint the figure. So let's go straight up, in my case, I think, or across to Arigna in County Roscommon and say hi to Cathy. Good morning to you, Cathy.
Good morning, and good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Not at all, a pleasure, a pleasure. How are things in Arigna?
It's actually lovely. It's quite bright. It's very nice today. It's not raining.
No, well, that's the main thing. It was a bit dull here earlier, but the sun is trying to break through.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about where you are, because the Arigna is known for its mines, a coal mine that goes back to the 1700s and was, interestingly, only closed in 1990. But it's now sort of a tourist feature, isn't it?
It is. They've got a museum over there. They used to supply the coal to the power station that was on Loch Allen, which is just outside. I was looking directly down at where that power station was.
Yes.
So, and Arigna is big. You know, it goes right back into the mountains. So it's a spread out community.
Yeah.
The side I'm on is on the east side, overlooking Loch Allen.
Okay.
But it goes right up into the valley.
So was it a big employer in its day?
It's the only employer.
The only
power station and the mines. Yeah. After that, small farming, you know.
And have things changed dramatically since it closed in 1990?
I don't know, in the sense.
Well, how long are you there?
Everybody's like, I am here 27 years.
Okay.
So it has. I think everything changed for people. The turn of the millennium, you know, everything improved. Like more, everybody seemed to be able to have a car and go work anywhere else. Whereas I think in the 50s and 60s, you're very confined to where you are. You ended up emigrating.
Yes, exactly.
No, it was a big employer.
Yeah.
If you weren't down the mines, like there was lorries, there was all kinds of ancillary.
Sure, I can imagine.
Employment for it.
And as a tourist centre now, is it attracting quite a lot of people?
Yes, they love going up to see because you go down into the mine shaft and you see how they worked, and it's quite horrific. You wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy. Yeah.
I was looking them up this morning. Yeah, I was looking them up this morning.
Yeah.
They're opening up in July again. Sort of mid-July, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Listen, before we start talking about the art career and all that kind of thing, could we have a quick look at your garden and the view out of the lake? Because I'm always intrigued to see where people live and what their aspect is and what they wake up to. Yeah.
Right. That's me stove. So that's so the power station was just down by the edge of the lake there.
All right.
You're looking across at Stephen.
Yes.
This is my little hobby, growing lettuce and spinach and herbs.
Very good.
It's nice to run out. You know, if you're fed up.
Yeah, I can see that.
You can. I come down now. That's the main house up there, and Michael's work space is up there.
Very good.
And a few sculptures. You can see that's a few sculptures there on the way up.
Ah, yeah. Yes. Lovely.
You know, work table outside.
Do you work a lot outside when the weather's good?
I like to work outside if I'm doing something dusty and the weather good.
Sure.
Yeah. Sometimes if it gets too bright, then it's hard. Shall I go back to the table?
Do please, yeah. Thanks for showing us around the garden and the lovely view you wake up to every morning is fantastic. So tell us about yourself in terms of your career. You were born in Portlaoise and you were one of a number of children, is that right?
Yeah, the usual, the large 50s family. There was 8 of us. I came in the middle, so it was life in Portlaoise. I suppose one advantage of Portlaoise was you were close enough to Dublin.
Yes.
And you had the train and you had the bus, you could be up in Dublin in less than an hour.
Right.
So, yeah, it opened your mind up a bit, you know.
Sure. And did you head straight for Dublin when you left school, or what did you do?
Straight for Dublin, and I worked in London, you know, as a student.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And then you came back from London after how long?
I came back after, I suppose, I got married in London and I had a son and came back. That didn't last, and set up here in Ireland, you know, and I was very happy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And at what point did you go to NCAD? Was that?
Before I went to London, actually.
Oh,
I was
was
in
it before?
NCAD, yeah, for 3 years. I did a night's class for a year because I was working, and then I did full time, you know, in NCAD, and was down in the sculpture department. And then I went to London.
All right. And when you came back, how did your career unfold at that point?
Well, actually, where I went out to, I was living up in Killian, Dublin Mountains with Michael Cullen. And I went out to Dunleary Art School. And Trevor Scott was running the Dunleary. It was a great place. It was up in the main street at the old bakery. And I said, what was the chances of being able to come for the year, you know, and just work in the place, not even be a student, but be like a student.
Yes.
And I had that. I did that. And it was just great. He's a sculptor now. He's up in Manor Hamilton at the moment. He was over living in America for the last 80s, 90s, and 30 years or 40 years. But he's back. And but John is a great in the college. He was doing the resin, running the resin department, and he had a great dynamic to him. And Hester Scott, she was in the ceramic department. She was brilliant. Yeah. There was kind of a lovely energy of getting on with it and doing it and buzz. I loved it. Yeah.
Did you? Yeah. And would they have been quite an influence on you?
Not, I don't think, not in that sense, no, because John had a particular type of work he did, whereas I was starting to get into the figurative work, you know.
Sure.
You know, yeah. So I don't think so. No.
Okay. And did you gravitate to sculpture immediately, or was it something that developed and your interest in it developed?
It developed from foundation in College of Art, you know, where Alice Hanratty and Paul Funge, they were the two major tutors in that. And we were doing a painting section.
Yes.
And I discovered the bit I enjoyed was making the frame and stretching the canvas. And then I had the biggest canvas I could make. And I sat there looking at it saying, I haven't a clue. And it just, all it did, it scared me. Frightened me. And so probably it was defensive and aggressive. What, I don't know. But I got all the paint and I just squeezed it out onto the canvas line, flattened the floor, and I threw everything at it. And left it. And kind of like, if I couldn't use it, then I had to destroy it, you know, and I walked away from it. But what I got from that was that I liked making things, and I liked the energy of putting the emotion and the meaning and the content into doing that. It was like an act of something, a ritual. So from there on, then I started constructing quite grotesque things out of plastic and foam. Michael McCarthy had this sealing iron. You could seal big polythene sheets together. So I had massive yolks hanging from the ceiling, filled with water and gunk. And
so very experimental.
Very experimental, and God knows what I was trying to say. It looked a bit disturbed, all right.
But I mean, obviously it's part of the process of developing your own brand, mark.
It is.
And tell me about your time in Temple Bar. When did you kind of move to your studio there?
Well, I was working closely with Jenny Houghton, and Jenny, Geraldine O'Reilly and myself were saying we need to get kind of a communal space to work in, and we weren't very successful And then Jenny came along, who had this dream of finding a very big art centre.
Yes.
And I said, very interested in coming in, you know, if you find a place in on that. And she did. She found Temple Bar. She found all that space.
Yes.
It was an old shirt factory. And CIE had been buying up all that area to develop as a central bus station, which would have been rough now, the middle of town, buses pulling in and out of. But she had great energy, and she just got people on board, and they rolled up their sleeves, cleaned it out, and found a space for themselves and got on with it.
And were there many people in that studio?
Michael Vernon and myself were the only two in it at that point, yeah.
Right, okay.
And I was also, preparing the work for my exhibition in the Project Art Centre.
Yeah.
84 or 5. And so I'd finish up that, and I was working on that out in the open because there was great big lumps of trees I was carving. And
yes.
So I was up the mountains at that crack. So then I came into Temple Bar.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, this is before it became the trendy joint it is.
Yeah, yeah.
One could call it that.
It was the victim of its own success, I think they call it.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. It was Charlie Haughey saw the possibilities of Temple Bar being a cultural centre.
So did it end up pushing people like you out, did it?
No, it did in a sense, but then I was there until Rory O'Queeve was managing it, and he was overseeing the development of it, yes. Where it was all being gutted and redeveloped as a fancy, like it was up rough and ready up to that point. So that I had an internal hankering to get out of Dublin. I had enough of it. I wanted to be out in the country, and I felt sculpture is more at home out in the country, you know. I would spend lots of time up the Dublin Mountains, you know. I have friends up there, so I'd be working all over their places, you know. So I felt it was time to do that, and so I moved up here to Arigna with Michael, my husband. Yeah.
And when did you mentioned to me when we were chatting during the week about Regent Park in London, that you saw an outdoor exhibition of sculpture, and that
it was Richmond. Yeah,
Richmond. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, it was one morning, I'll never forget it. I was in the park. I heard there was a sculpture exhibition down it. I was living up in the Twickenham end of it, so it's very close. And there was a mist, and as you walk through over the kind of commonage, it's very big in the park. Yes. A sculpture would reveal itself, and then you'd move on, you'd go to another one. I thought it was just wonderful. Kind of caught me. And when I was doing the independent artists, I was on the committee for that. I suggested that we would do a sculpture, open air sculpture exhibition. And they all looked at me and says, well, if you want to do it, go and do it. Like, we're not doing it. So we went out to Marley Park, and again, that's where we did sculpture in the open for 3 or 4 years.
Fantastic.
Every
year. Did it work well, did it?
It did. It worked brilliant. It became a big kind of open day, and the exhibition would go on then for the summer. It was great. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And it gave a great open breath for sculpture. It's lovely if sculpture's out. And Jerry Cox, who would do great big structures. I did magnificent wood structures, and Vivian Roach did great stuff. And there was quite a number of people who kind of rose to the challenge. Up until that point, there wasn't too much going on in the open, you know. There'd be things in gardens and that, but in a real open space,
I saw one in Ballymaloog a couple of years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago. We just happened to be passing by, and we drove in, and there was, it was just an extraordinary event. So listen, then, okay, so you moved to Arigna. You married Michael. And did you move, once you married, did you move straight up? Is that it?
Yeah, we rented locally, and then we bought this county council cottage, and we developed that over the years.
Yeah.
And the first thing we built was a shed out the back that I worked in, and there was this tiny shed beside the house that he worked in. So it was kind of fairly starting at basics again. But
things developed.
Things developed. It's amazing. You can.
For those who don't know, your husband is Michael Harding, the author.
Yes.
He'd be very well known to the Irish, anyway.
Yeah.
So he went from being in a hen house to quite a nice studio, I gather.
He's a gorgeous.
Is there a degree of jealousy there? Is there?
Yeah. Local man built it. He did a brilliant job in it. And the local man built my studio. All right. Michael McDermott. Yeah, he did a great job. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, well, look, on that point, why don't we have a look around your studio?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's do that. So you have 2 rooms effectively, haven't you? Well, sorry, I let you turn around.
Used to be one open space, and then cut this off from the main space, and it has a mezzanine above. I could use storage, and then the main workshop. So in here, this is like, I do wax work there.
Yep.
It's like all artist studios full of bits and pieces.
Yes.
I got into working with pigments, so I buy them in from Germany. I love working with the pigments and natural materials.
So what do? Do you create a binder with them?
Yes, egg yolk and beer.
Okay.
It's as ancient as people are painting as a medium. Yeah. So this would be working on, that's the last piece I'm working on. So I'd keep making it until I got it to the point where I wanted. So I work on drawings also.
Yes. And
I've been using this idea of repeating the same image, how you can kind of play with it. Like there different ways. It works as an idea, but does it work as,
And would you always do that, Cathy? Would you always do a drawing before you actually work on a piece of sculpture?
Yeah, like we'll say a drawing like this. It's just hanging on the wall.
Yeah.
Now, that could hang there for a long time. And then I might say, that maybe that's worth pursuing, And there again, that's another sculpture I was doing. And I was playing with the idea of trying to have them look like they're coming through the air.
Yes.
Bit of storage. This in the first lockdown, I tried to work on. It's a wood carving. And it's using the pigment and, the gesso.
Yes.
Making it all up yourself.
What sort of wood was that? What kind of wood is it?
Do you know that is sequoia? I got up in Wicklow. Oh. Yeah, it came from Avondale.
Yes.
There was a big storm in the 80s and the tree came down. And there's a chap up there who had a wood yard. Yeah. I was doing a piece for the Devil's Glen in sequoia, and I bought as much as I could off him after that.
And is that not a very hard wood?
No, it's actually soft, but what it is very, very dry.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. In fact, when I was working on it, in his place, the sap used to run out of it, and it was very red and pink. So this is what I call my main workspace. If you're doing hammering and welding and anything dirty.
Yes.
That's a piece from the Grafton Gallery show way back.
In wood?
That's in wood.
Yeah.
These are the bronzes that I worked on that I exhibited in Warsaw and in the Linen Hall in Castlebar.
Yes.
And this was the first piece from that series of work I did that I'm very fond of. It's that thing of reflection in on yourself rather than kind of admiring yourself. I started Pina Bausch, there's a brilliant film on her work. And I always loved dancing, and dancing to me is like sculpture, but it moves. And in the Pina Bausch, it had these extraordinary moments of people holding each other and the tenderness of it, very fast. I can't explain it. It'd be like jumping through hoops. And she would insist you find your own voice or your own way of working. That's me starting to work with this Jesmonite, and again, repeating figures to see. There was a great poet that came to the Dalkey Festival, the literary festival. Was it Doshi? She's an Indian dancer and poet.
Yes.
And she was extraordinary. She had a great book called The Girls Are Coming Out of the Woods. And I was kind of using that as a touch point to think about doing these pieces.
Yes.
They had a nice, so these are, when I'm working, I'd be developing it. Sometimes I would work in wax and then put it into plaster or the Jesmonite to develop it further. So,
and what's the difference between plaster and Jesmonite, which we came?
Jesmonite, plaster, the water, it's a chemical reaction when the water hits it.
Yeah.
And with the Jesmonite, they use acrylic instead of water.
I see.
And so it dries hard, and it's more. That's from the exhibition I had in the Temple Bar Gallery. I think it was 20 or 1999 maybe. And it was all plaster. It was like a big installation. That's one. It's just stored from that show. It's a double figure. And this is kind of plain with the broken bits from things I'm working on at the moment. I like doing this because you get the light reflecting on them, and these are, see, I'm not hidden, am I?
No, you are out there, yeah. It's nice and slow.
So you can kind of, it means nothing, but it's just, it's fun.
Yeah, the light does play very well in it,
Doesn't it? These are the local drum shambo.
That's right, yes.
Gin joint.
Gin joint.
And that's drying.
All the places.
Now, this would be one of those, I'll show you the size, working photography on acrylic sheets. And actually, Alan has joined us this morning, and he took me out on his boat. He was big into fishing. The sun hadn't come up. It was 4 a.m, and we headed out in the boat onto the Shannon. It was the most magnificent trip I'd ever done. And I was photographing. And the one thing I got that really struck with me was, at the end of the day, found a tiger moth floating on the water, and it was dead. And so I barely was able to use the image because I've gone.
Yeah.
Start video.
There, you're back. Well, you're.
Sorry, I don't know why I did that, but anyway.
Yeah. Can you just show us the moth there again?
Which one?
The moth in the picture.
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't really get a clear.
It's hard to show. I can't.
Yeah.
How's that now? So it's reflecting.
Yes. No, that's nice though. Yeah. So that's an actual picture
of the water with the moth floating on top, and it's a double print. The local sign company printed it for me.
Okay.
It's a double print using the acrylic on top and behind. You can see the way it.
Yes, I can just about make that out. Yeah.
So that's it.
Very good. Okay.
These are also part of the show, where I was doing these 4 figures, and they're like carrying things on their backs.
Yes.
And I later added this little fella on looking down to see what was,
what's going on,
as a kind of a fun thing.
Yeah.
This lady is carrying her house on her back. Others are burdened with their load, and others are enjoying themselves.
Yes.
So.
And we'll see some of those close up in the presentation later on. Cathy,
yes.
Yeah.
And I like, again, adding different ones, when you come across I was making little figures. It's like you're looking down into a magical world. And again, looking down, somebody trying to, and I'm using the kind of the icon technique of gold leafing and pigment painting as a drawer. Just the machines. And again, this is a piece I carved out of, as you can see, the kind of planks I have. So I carved out of and used the pigment to paint it.
Yes, yes.
And this started as from one of those folk tales about Mary Magdalene, where she was proven that she could turn an egg red. So I just used it as the starting point.
Yes.
And I like the double, that when you do an image, that there is also a shadow, a shadow image.
Yes.
I'll just look at this piece. This is using the pigment on Jesmonite, you know.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So
Wonderful.
that's the very last piece I've done.
Yeah.
Just finished it last week.
I can see a sort of a very strong feminine, nurturing kind of aspect to a lot of your work. You know,
yeah,
the womb becomes very much the central part.
Yeah, the womb, and then sometimes the womb is open. You know, it's a, you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
So it's not mutilation. It's more like it's over, you know?
Yeah. Yes.
And this is a construction also. Again, using the ladder. The ladder seems to work, I think, you know, it takes you from one realm to another. Yes. And you wonder, where's the person trying to come from? And when I was in Warsaw, you got so imbued with the horrors of war from the Second World War that it kind of, those images stay with you. So I decided to add it to it, that if you're leaving something, maybe you're trying to get up into another area.
Yeah.
Again, this is the piece, you know, when I talk about Pina Bausch, you know, where they can allow things to fly through each other. You'd have a couple doing a performance, but there was so much trust in that performance and delicate moments that I just found it very moving. Again,
beautiful.
You see, I had to store all my work upstairs, the vessel show from the dock that I had in Carrick-on-Shannon, and this show with all the plaster work. The trouble is you just end up storing them away and you forget. You have a whole show there under shelves and under floorboards.
And then you've got your mezzanine for storage above as well.
Yes. Yeah. And it's a great mezzanine.
Wow.
You can see how the molds are stored up there. And
fantastic. Great setup. Great setup altogether. There's a number of interesting questions and comments, which I won't get to, if you don't mind, everybody, till later on when we're getting to the Q&A. But you're obviously capturing a lot of people's imagination, Cathy. So well done. Do you want to settle down and we'll go through some of your images on PowerPoint?
Okay.
Yeah, that was really good. Really good. I'm surprised you didn't fall over something, actually. To be perfectly honest. I was looking a bit precarious there.
I know, it's funny, you have eyes in your feet or something when you're used to the workshop.
Yes.
And it's, I did a big cleanup on it about 6 weeks ago. And got a lot of junk into a skip, so that helps.
Not on my account, I hope.
So it was timely for doing this.
Yeah.
No, 6 weeks ago. Didn't even know you existed.
That's right. That's right. Okay. All right. Listen, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the PowerPoint and look at some of those images, and some of them we've seen, but let's see them more close up. Okay. Can you see that all right?
Yeah, I can see it.
Good. Okay. So let's start with the first image, and you talk through that, Cathy, and I'll just press on as we move.
Yeah. Again, this is using the female, one hanging from the other, and one is full and the other is empty. And then again, it's like an underground. I wanted this interior space, this subliminal space, and but above it, because I started casting my own work in Temple Bar with Tim Morris. And we were casting and welding our own stuff and learning as we went along. And so with that process, Tim moved over to Foxford and he had his own foundry. I stopped having a foundry, and I'd go over there and cast with him. And there's always stuff over, bars, wires, from the process of construction. And so I constructed the tree, and the tree has little gold leaves on it, and that's above ground. But down submerged in the subterranean, as these two female forms contemplating each other,
Yes.
And again, I used a crate to, I constructed the base around a crate that I got from my brother-in-law. He had a shed full of them. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
So that's that piece. And again, part of that whole series of like the dance pieces. This is the ladder piece and the silver spoons that she's climbing up towards.
I thought they were actually
it's on the same. Yeah, no, they're just silver spoons. Michael's mother, and she, it's from her house.
Right.
And she did.
It's a beautiful piece, beautiful piece. And are you putting your coloring is not the right word, resins and stuff? No, not resin is wrong either. To make the ladder, for instance, is a sort of a bluey color?
Yeah,
I'd
be using blue pigment and medium probably with that, yeah.
Yes, okay. And does it affix well and long term?
It fixes very well, yeah. And it really does fix well. And on the green, I would have used cupric nitrate, using the heat process, to patinate. That would be patinated.
Okay.
And that was the start of that work and that piece. So that is, as I was trying to explain, it's a piece of reflection.
Yeah.
That the sense of, we go around the world, and I was saying, I'm in the studio now, I own, but I'm actually in this kind of interior dialogue with myself all the time. And you're saying, you suddenly realize, it was Dermot Healy even said once that he had a neighbour down from him, and he used to go down and visit him and chat to him by the fire. He was a bachelor on his own. And he said to him one day, are you ever lonely, here on your own? And he looked at him and says, why would I be lonely? Haven't I myself to talk to? And it was like a revelation, and he was right. You're permanently talking, dialoguing with yourself.
Of course, yeah.
Whatever, everything filters through you all the time.
Yeah.
So I was trying to bring that sense of, there's the exterior self that everybody can see, but then there's this whole interior private world that you. And I suppose with the sculpture, I'm kind of interested in getting that out.
I understand, yeah.
Again, as I was saying, I love dance. I love the Pina Bausch moments. And there was a dance in that film where she could go through a person's arms just held out front and like, shoot down and land somehow. It's hard to explain, but I would say watch her work. It's amazing. Sure. Yes. And so that gave me that thing of where two people can be so caught into each other that there has to be trust and gentleness and love and kind of wildness, where you're flying through.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Another thing I started doing, these little legs and cage things. When you're making, I would be hand building these works in wax. And so you always put little like sticks of wax to hold them up.
Yeah.
And you can use them then in the casting process as vents. You just leave them there. And the vent, when you pour the bronze into the mold, the gas is running in front of the pour, and so you don't want to have airlocks, so you have these little vents running off. And I discovered that they actually were good to use in the piece, you know, that they gave a sense of some sort of a cage or its own space. Yes,
I love this. Can you explain the sort of what the figures are doing here, apart from the obvious?
It comes from.
I wrote down the lovers actually when I was because there wasn't a name against it. I just wrote down number 5.
I call it beloved. It's that thing again of where it's trying to express love, and somebody's running around with the love on the shoulders. It's a kind of it's a way of making love without it being a sexual kind of thing. It's kind of again a trust and a carrying.
Yes.
So it's you know that song too. He's my brother. You know, you carry. You know.
Yep. Oh, this is interesting.
No. Oh yeah, that's my daughter took that photo. It's from the mezzanine, looking down. When I had made those bronze sculptures, and I wanted something on the floor so that when the pieces are around it, because I was trying to find ways, I wanted to use light with the works, but I wanted to use the light like a domestic light. So little bulbs and wires and all that kind of stuff. And I was painting that's a big canvas on the floor. And I was trying to paint something that would give the sense of timelessness, but yet a road through it, that, you know, you cut a road through time at a certain point, you know, in your life, you have, as you go through it. So I was just trying to find my way around that. And so that's me on the studio floor painting that,
It's great photo.
What the other thing I did with it, I cut up old clothes, and I discovered if you cut them up into tiny pieces, like jumpers, one jumper was really beautiful, deep blue, and I had red ones and that. I made piles out of it. It had a beautiful texture and softness. And I used that also within the painting, and it added color, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
And I like to bring a kind of a feeling of tactile, that you want to touch it down. I think when you look at a sculpture or painting, you have to have a physical response to it. It's like when you smell food, or you see food that you really want to eat, you get a physical response to it. And I want art to be able to do that, you know, that you get the shiver when you look, you know.
Yeah, and want to touch it, or.
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
Again, like, you know, the that thing of the holding, the trusting, and the, you know.
Yes. I think we saw some of these now in your.
You did. They were in on the thing. Again, I would have hand built those, and Tim would have cast them, and then I would have welded them all together. Yeah.
Yeah. That's all a series. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Now this is May, Bush and Moon. Am I right?
Yes. Yeah. The countryside up here is extraordinary in May and June. You get the May bush, and then you get the hawthorn.
Yes.
And it's just laid in white, and they're like big wedding dresses everywhere, you know. And you can see where in the Irish the myth, you know, the she and white goddess and all that comes from.
Yes.
And you'd be just painting them or trying to get them into, like the last figure I done, again, because it's this time of year and the bushes are back out, I found myself putting the white dots on the figure and giving it the sense of the white goddess, the May, you know.
Yeah.
The May or the June or the hawthorn. And that's done like an icon. So it's done on solid wood, and the gesso is built up, takes nearly a week to do the ground on it, because you build it up into about 15 coats, and you have to let each one dry, you know.
Yes, yes.
And then you start painting it, you know, with the medium, you know, with the pigments and the medium.
And I sense that you get a lot of your inspiration from the countryside, particularly where you are. Would that be true? You know,
From yes, not the country. I wouldn't be what you call it, a landscape painter, and I wouldn't be a painter in the painterly sense of it, you know. But if I want to do something and I enjoy doing it, I suit myself and do it. And so I just did the painting, you know.
Yes.
And I done all the work that went into the Hamilton Gallery. It was 2 years ago, I think now. It was all done as painting, you know. Yes. You might say, or works on wood. But because you carve the wood and you prepare it, it's like a hybrid between painting and sculpture. It's in another zone. It's not in the canvas zone.
I understand. Yeah, yeah. And the next one is called Forest Ghost.
Yes, again, it's because it's getting bright in the evenings, or the moon's out, and you have these ghosts everywhere of the white tree, you know.
Yeah.
And
I noticed, because when we were chatting, you mentioned about the holy wells, or the sacred wells.
Yeah, so
that you're quite taken with that as well as a.
Yes, yeah. And up here, like, it's full of them.
Is it?
Now, that's you know, by the sea, you know, you find the things washed up, and this is a child's shoe.
Yes.
That have been obviously in the water for a long time, but at the same time, the Syrian refugees were trying to cross the Mediterranean, and there's the famous child whose body washed up on the shore, you know, the 3-year-old.
Yes, I remember that.
And it's very sad, and everybody was moved by it. And I just put the shoe on the board to kind of remember, kind of an act of remembering that, you know, that terrible moment.
Yes, and it's
that represents so much.
Yeah, and you call that Stolen Child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was listening to Stephen Hawkins, and he was doing things like talking about the black hole and on the audiobooks, you know.
Yes.
And I then accidentally came across NASA photos of Mars, and I thought, well, that's another thing you won't do in your life, ever get to Mars. But I thought, why not just go in your own little spaceship? So that's actually a port window from the personal spaceship looking at Mars landscape.
And you call it Half Day on Mars. So you didn't spend a full day there. That'd be too much.
You know, the half day in the shops.
Oh, yes.
Pounds, yeah.
Very good. Okay.
No, this again is drawing the beloved, you know, again, taking the thing that you cherish and love and embracing it, and, you know, moving
Protecting.
with it. Yeah. So again, that's a drawing on, it's a drawing on the prepared board. What do you call it? The gesso, like that's the medieval technique. It's even pre-medieval. Is
it really?
Yeah, way back.
Yeah. And are you using brushes there, or?
No, I'm using pencil and those watercolor pencils. And,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah.
Again, sculpture, but done with the gesso, and you can't see now. If you go up close, I have little paint marks, and they're like little codes, you know. And it's the embrace of the two again, you know. It's the, you know, and I use wire to kind of interconnect them. All
right, yeah.
Sometimes I like to use wire, kind of gives the sense of like stitching things together, you know.
Yes.
Now in the Hamilton, Martina, the Hamilton Gallery in Sligo,
Mhm.
Every year she invites 100 artists to respond to a poem, one of Yeats' poems, and so runs with the festival. And that's the Eva Gore booth one, where I'm taking the acorn.
Yes.
As and that's again using on the board, and that's gold leaf down the center.
Mm-hmm.
Now Eva Goldwood is in Yeats, but I don't know, I can't remember the exact details, but it's the same thing, 100 centimeters by 100 centimeters.
And this is, and all the golden grasshoppers and bees.
Yeah,
is that in the same one?
Yeats. No, that's a Yeats poem.
Yeah.
And he's always doing the references again to classical.
Mm.
And he referred to the classical sculptor, what was his name? Begins with P, and the golden things. That's the line from his poem.
That's right. Yeah.
And so I made it using, I love that blue, you know, and then the gold against it. And I did the drawing of the you know, classical sculpture from those times.
Yes, yes.
This was one where she suggested a poem by Leland Bardwell to celebrate St. Bridget's Day. And so I found myself, we know St. Bridget as the traditional saint, but there's also a notion that she's a continuum from the pagan. And Bridget, then there is the stories of Bridget with the oak and all the female energy. She was, I wanted to get the sense that she was an encourager of the arts and education, and women, you know, find themselves and get on with it, I suppose. And so I just did it like an icon.
Yes.
And used gold leaf, but did it as a way of doing it just that bit different, you know. I done 3 of them. When I was in Warsaw, I had to study an icon of it was a Kazansky icon of the Mother of God, it's called. And it's a very nice thing, but you had to make 2 copies of it as is, and it was to look like the original. Flaws and all, and it taught you how to do a thing, kind of do the same thing twice at the same time, you might say.
Okay.
You'd be, you know, you'd be going from one to the other, and they would both be slightly different, because if I was inventing it, you know, and it just, I found that useful. So that was Bridget.
Lovely.
These are little figures in there. Again, it's okay.
Sorry, will I go back?
This is not. No, it's okay. It's because you can't really see it.
Right? No, sorry. I could see the figures here.
In there, you can see these. And I had made a sculpture once, you know, with that kind of pose, and I brought it in, and again, it's using that. I think it's quite a womb-like form, you know, where and I introduced the fire, like tongues of fire, which I'm kind of usurping Christian, you know, like things of like the tongues of fire for the Holy Ghost given, you know. When you're a kid, you be taught all this kind of stuff, and it does, you find a way to bring it back out again.
Sure, yes. It's indelibly ingrained in your brain.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
This is the last one I done, which with this I used the papier. I made a mold of it, and I used paper mache into the mold. I mean, so I must have modeled something up. Anyway, it's the figure where the horrors. I think it's Meditations in Times of Civil War, and he's in the tower in Limerick. It's a tower house, and he's working there. He's living in it, but people are knocking on the door. Civil War is going on, and he's kind of, he's shocked and horror from it, you know, and it's probably in times like that, it's very hard to think what's going on, you know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so he kind of retreats into his interior self and dreams of maybe better things to come. And so that's why right in the center of it, I put the figure caught into itself, surrounded by the gold. The gold is always like hope, and good, whereas all the chaos outside of the dark, boiling, and a bit of fire in the distance and stuff, you know.
Very, very powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, I like that project because it kind of makes you think different, but yet you're bringing your own life to it, you know, as well, how you interpret it.
Yes, yes.
This again is using for this one. That's see-through plastic over a figure, and it's Yeats, where he's always thinking of the woman, the beautiful young woman that he loved and kind of never let go of, and he finds that he's just this old stick on this old scarecrow, and so I constructed it like that, like this shadow of still looking back at the idealized beautiful woman, you know. What was her name that he loved?
Maud Gonne.
Maud Gonne, yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's...
Sorry, Cathy.
You're fine. That's from the show Vessel that was on in the dock in Carrick-on-Shannon. And they were ceramic sculptures. I call them Vessel because within the vessel, which are again like a womb-like shape, I had nesting in them was a different idea in them all, you know. And I also had big canvas just on stretched, and I drew and painted and charcoaled on it. And I done this before I had learned using pigments and stuff, and I was using just imagery again, you know, that I would find, and so that's a close-up of that piece.
Yes.
And there's, as you can see, they're the vessel shapes. They're like heads. They're like moon. They're like just boulders. That's the video, you know, on the ground. So it's been projected onto from above.
Okay.
And it moves, and it's like water moving, or it's like, do you remember that Russian space oddity where it was Tarkovsky film? They had where there was this world or big lake or sea. Just it was like the subconscious.
Yes. So that's what dragging you down. Is it not one of the black holes? No.
Kapoor, the sculptor, I saw his piece in London, and it was a black hole.
Yeah.
But it was like a grave, and it was very powerful. It's frightened you, and it looked bottomless, you know.
Really? Yes.
Yeah. So that's, you know.
That's a close-up of
one of the
vessels. Yeah.
And that's that big wall drawing, okay?
Yeah.
On the canvas. That's the first commission I've done. With that photograph, in the hole, there was a boat with the 3 deacons. Now, this is St. Killian. St. Killian went to Bavaria, where he, you know, when the Irish monks were heading off to proselytize over Europe and all over the place. And so he went to Bavaria, and he became the patron saint of Bavaria because he brought the Christian faith to Bavaria.
And whereabouts is that sculpture?
On a ski in Dublin,
Oh,
at
is
the
it?
German Deutsch school,
Oh, yes, in Killian's.
St. Killian's. Yeah.
Yeah.
They built a new school, and
Yes.
they commissioned me to do, a sculpture for it.
Beautiful.
And it's done in limestone. That kind of comes from up this end of the country, his end of the country. He came from Mulla in Cavan, so I like matching the material to the.
Yes, of course. Yeah. It's wonderful. All right, Cathy. Well, that's it. I mean, this is literally just a drop in the ocean compared to the work that we could have shown. And there's loads of other pieces of sculpture, public pieces, out on the streets in town and so on that we would like to have shown, but just time is against us. But before we get into the questions and answers from people, I always ask the guest artist if they had a choice of any work of art in the world to display in their house or their garden. In your case, maybe your garden when you see it. What would it be and why?
Yeah.
What do you reckon? I know you cheated because you got two things, but tell us about the first anyway.
Sorry. Jacob Epstein I chose because I really do love that sculpture, Lazarus.
And I'll show it now.
Yeah. I think I like his work. It's powerful,
Yes.
And I suppose it suits me too, Lazarus rising from the dead and the way it's bound, I would do that with stuff, Yes. I like that.
Where is that displayed? Do you know?
I have no idea. I'd say it's in America, in New York somewhere.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I have no idea. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay, no, that's fine.
I think it's in America, yeah.
All right. And this might go over your fireplace at home on the right from Goya.
I think it's great. This is,
What do you like about that?
Duchess of Alba, the black.
Yeah.
There's a white one and there's a black one. He done the white one first and it's absolutely insane looking. I just laugh when I look at it. And there's a mad little dog at her feet, And she was a real person. She used to Maria somebody. I have her name written here because Maria de Silva. She used to model for him. And it was very fashionable. The black, wearing the black, like with the mantillas and all that. And it's. I like it. I like the energy of it, And it's. I don't know what she's pointing at. Her shoes, I think.
Probably saying, look at my Louboutin shoes.
If she was on my mantelpiece, I'd have a great laugh. I don't think they are.
Fantastic. Okay.
She's good.
Let's go and read a couple of comments. I'll start from the top. Very interesting. Were you involved with the Hazelwood Sculpture Trail? That's from Marianne. Do you know the Hazelwood?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, sorry, in County Sligo it says. Yeah, I have to add, I remember going there in the 80s. Looked brilliant in the woods.
Yeah.
Bernadette Kiley says, gorgeous space, Cathy.
Thank you.
Trina says, any idea how old the sequoia is or it was? I'd say
they were all more or less the same. They were put up on big houses.
Yeah.
So
1700s.
When they were building big houses, they were bringing in the exotic trees and plants from China and all over the place. Yeah. So I think there were about 120 to 150 years old.
I'd say easily, yeah.
Yeah.
Trina and I visited Woodstock near Thomastown there, and there's some amazing sequoias there. And they've got to be 200, 250 years old. Bernadette Kiley says, beautiful work. Jacinta Monks, I really love the reflection piece. Super to see what's behind the sculptures. Patty says, I love the blending of sculpture and dance. It definitely shows in Cathy's work. It brings flow and movement to her work. Thanks for that, Patty. Eileen McDermott Rowe says, love the white dancing figures, great expression. Derek Cully, ever considered using 3D printer for making maquettes? 3D printer? That's an idea.
But what would I be making? What would I be 3D printing? Would it be a drawing?
Yeah, it could be. It could be. Yeah, maybe.
How would it make up?
Yeah.
Like, I suppose you could enlarge, but then I think when you do a thing with your hands, it brings its own energy to it. You know, it's like a machine will do it perfect. But is that what you know, you're always looking for the surprise, the little,
I know,
the flaw, the wobble.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, good point. Very good point. Margot says, looks brilliant, Cathy. Great to see such a busy studio. Enda Coyle Green says, it's wonderful to get a sense of the process. Fascinating work. Marianne, what is Jesmonite? Where do you get it? And do you mix it with water? Maybe not correct spelling. Yeah, well, we kind of discussed that, didn't we?
Yeah, you get it from the fiberglass resin supply in Cork. They're very efficient.
And you mix it with water, isn't it? Or sorry,
no,
acrylic.
Acrylic,
yeah. Okay. I like your thought process. Love the dancing pieces. I like Pina Bosch, work and music. I painted some music she used. Do you sell any of the dance pieces? That's from Yvonne.
Yes, I sell everything.
Sure you do. Sure you do. Yes, we can take that offline, Yvonne. Bernadette Kiley, love the spaceship. Yes, yeah, your Mars. Yeah. Marianne, love the figures with ladders. And Pina Bosch, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah, you are.
Good.
Yeah.
Good to know that's part of your inspiration. And it says such a pure blue. Yeah, wasn't it beautiful? Absolutely love the blue Yeats painting. The design of the bees is lovely. Love the repeat patterns in some of your paintings. That's from Yvonne also. Alico says, amazing work, amazing ideas. And Morland, thank you, Alan and Catherine. Apologies, I must leave at 11. You get all sorts of information here, don't you? Margot, you express your process and ideas so well, Cathy. It's inspiring. Thank you. I've learned so much. Thank you, Margot. Malachy says, unique, amazing, beautiful. And Patty, profound and meaningful, absolutely amazing, inspiring. Thank you. And Robert Kelly says, terrific presentation, Cathy, so engaging. And the work is so imaginative. Well done. I think I'm near the end. Jacinta says, beautiful work, iconic influence, very interesting. Dorothy, wonderful work and great to hear about the ideas behind the materials used. Thank you, Cathy. Where do you get the wax?
I used to buy it off of Lennox, you know, and I have just boxes of it for over the years. And you can keep, if you're not casting it, you can keep using it, but you can still collect it when you cast it because you melt it out.
Oh, can you?
Lost wax.
You can reuse it.
Well, it's lost wax.
Yeah.
You see, if you have a wax thing in the mold, you heat it up and it pours out.
Pours out, so you got it again.
And you buy microcrystalline. No, microcrystalline and paraffin wax, mix them, put a bit of rosin in with it.
Okay.
Vaseline.
Yeah. And Rebecca says, wonderful. Thanks for showing your work process on Studio. Thank you, Rebecca. All right, I'm going to allow people to unmute themselves. And if anyone would like to ask a question in person or make a comment, please do so.
Unmuted. But that was really, really amazing. Thanks a million for doing it.
Okay, thank you, Annette. Thank you.
Okay.
Philomena here.
Philomena,
Cathy's work, you know, you asked what is it about Cathy's work that you like, or, you know, why do you like her work? I think Cathy's work is very hard to say. It just hits me in the gut, and that's why I like it. It doesn't hit me in the head, you know. So, Cathy, thanks. Your work is lovely.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Philomena. That's a nice remark. Yes.
Thank you, Philomena. Thank you very much.
Cathy.
Alan. Hi.
Hi, Alan. Off you go.
Moth on the water. It took me, you know, you know, that was something from the past, but suddenly it's being used again. And we were drifting down the Shannon from Leitrim. Yeah. Thanks a lot. It was brilliant.
It was a wonderful experience, wasn't it? It was great.
Yeah. You realise when you're doing these things what they mean. You know, it was And I was at the back of the boat, and I was seeing you taking pictures of things, and I'd got my camera, and I thought, well, she's taking a picture of that, so I'll take a picture as well, not knowing what I was doing, but if Cathy's doing it, I'll do it. But yes, it was brilliant. Thanks a lot, Kath. Yeah.
Okay, and thank you, Alan. Wouldn't
Thanks
have
for that,
happened
Alan.
without you. Ah, Claire, hi.
Hi,
This
Cathy.
is my sister.
Hello, Claire.
Sorry to bring the family into it, but I am amazed at the work, and I've seen it over the years. I cannot believe the talent there. And I am blessed that I have a half day on Mars to look at every day, and we love it. And I've also got moths. So, I'm sorry people can't buy it, but they're mine, and I treasure them and the memories from you. You are a fantastic artist and such a wonderful show. And nice to meet you, and I missed your name at the beginning. Our host.
Oh, Alan. Hi.
Alan. Nice
Yeah.
to see you, Alan.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye from Kent.
Lovely. Thanks, Claire. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Alan,
Go on.
come on.
Okay, anybody else like to say hello or make a comment?
Hi, I'd like to say hello. It's Enda here.
Hi, Enda, where are you? I can't
I'm
see you.
at the top
there
of
you
my
are.
own screen. And
Hello, Enda.
Hi. Just wanted to say how much I enjoyed it, Cathy.
Thank you,
me,
Enda.
I'm not a visual artist. I'm a writer, I'm a poet, and to me,
Okay.
the magic comes out. I totally got what you were saying about how sometimes in the flaw or
Right.
the loop, something
Yeah.
goes wrong
Yeah.
somewhere, and that leads you off in another direction, and
Yeah,
that
yeah.
itself can produce something. To
Yeah.
me, it's always you can't start something with an intention. You can only
totally
sort of
agree.
start it with an intention. And if
It
you
flows
start,
through you.
it flows through you. I always say the best poems, you're like a garden hose. You're
Yeah,
attached.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
just a hose, the water's going through, you know?
Yeah.
And the work, the dancing ones and the blue, oh my God, that blue.
Mm.
And I'm so envious of your sister having those two pieces.
Anybody else like to ask a question?
Can I come in, Alan?
Of course you can. Patty, yeah.
Thank you. A fabulous presentation. A great way to start the weekend.
Yeah.
I love Cathy's work, and I would like to ask Cathy
Yes.
for her advice. What would she say to a young artist, sculpturist? I have my niece is Peruvian. She's an artist. She does a sculpture as well, and she's a dancer. So I was just thinking of her as we were watching your presentation and hear all your experience and inspiration. So what would you say to a young artist that is starting her career in a similar path?
Find herself and follow it. You know, and suit yourself. Because you can get caught in other people's track. You have to find your own. And when you find that, it's like you'll always see it in the person who can sing. You know their voice. The writer, you know, you have to find that. And it comes out because I think creative process comes through you. You're not inventing it as such. You're opening yourself to it.
Absolutely.
But it happens.
that's-
It'll work.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
she'll get there. Yeah.
Patty, what do you think of that?
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I'll send it to you.
I wish her well.
Actually, to her, so she can see it and hear
Yeah.
you as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Tell her keep going.
Yeah.
I think also, if I can put in my tuppence worth, when you were talking, Cathy, there in the early days about the experimentation, that must have, you know, brought you along that creative process to find your own particular style.
Yeah.
And I think that's important
Yeah,
to be very, very experimental
Yeah.
and not just follow.
Well, I was, when I was young, it was Michael Collins said to me, you should try to figure, you know, and I said, no, and I did, and here I am still. It was the door I needed to open.
Yes.
You could be doing all kinds of installations and having an effect, but I found the door that was right for me, you know. It told my story. I could you know. I still haven't run out of, you know.
Do you ever get a mental block or equivalent of writer's block?
I have no idea, you know.
No, you just do it.
Don't know. Yeah, I think the one thing I did when I went to Warsaw and studied the icons, because when it started at first, I was in the conservation department. I thought I didn't like icons, but I opened my mind to it. And I also opened my mind to a process of discipline and be doing what you're told. Like my professor was Danuta Stepien, and she would tell you what to do, you know? And it was almost that thing of, you know, how high do you have to jump? You just did it, and you did it right. There was no nya, she'd say, and you'd have to do it right and do it again. And that was like, I wanted, because I was well into my 60s when I did that. I wanted to rewire my brain and not find I was on a path forever, the same path that I was afraid to wander off of. And that's why I painted, that's why I did the, you know, and that was another door. And that was, she opened that for me. I didn't go looking for it, you know. I happened to be in Warsaw. She saw my work and thought, you know, I'd be an interesting one to do the conservation course, you know. And it was wonderful.
Yeah. Excellent. Cathy, that's wonderful. I think we leave it there. Okay. We're a bit over time, but that has been absolutely wonderful. And on behalf of everybody, thank you so much for giving of your time. You're very generous. And it was a tremendous insight into somebody, you know, of your caliber who's producing amazing work. And if I can end with one comment that has been made, and it reads, I think you're one of the finest sculptors that Ireland has ever produced. Your work is amazing. And that comes from Catherine Green. And she knows a thing or two. She knows a thing or two about sculpture.
Video with Catherine. Yeah.
So there you are. So look, thank you all very much.
Yeah, that. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. And next week we'll be doing it again. We're going to Dublin this time to an artist, and he lives in Dublin. We've gone all over the country, which is wonderful. But we're back here in Dublin, and all will be revealed as usual on Wednesday on my social media. But thank you all from wherever you are around the world for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you're watching it on YouTube, please give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe, because it you know, attracts a lot more people, both in terms of people watching, but also artists from throughout Ireland and elsewhere, as I always say. So thank you all. Have an enjoyable rest of the week, and catch up with you next Saturday. Bye-bye, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Quick call. All right,
okay,
thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Cathy.